Buckle up, nerds. I have played more than 30 hours of Civilization 7 through the Antiquity and Exploration ages, and I am here today to preview as much of the game as I can and give you my first impressions, which are thankfully really positive so far. A huge thank you, of course, to 2K and Firaxis for the opportunity to play the game and make this video. Without any further ado, though, I don't want to keep you waiting. Let's hop into Civilization 7. We are now officially inside Civilization 7. I still cannot believe I'm saying that. Welcome to the game, everybody. My name, of course, is VanBradley, and today what I'm going to do with the time that I have is preview as many elements of the game for you that I can and give you my first impressions on how I feel about the game so far. Just for transparency, we will not be covering the modern age today, so if you notice that's missing, it's because I'm not covering it today. If you have any questions, though, leave them in the comments below or go to our Discord server. I have set up a specific Civilization 7 questions channel. What I can answer, I would be happy to answer. But for right now, let's hop into the game. The first thing I want to do is go through an age transition. You will see in the top left-hand corner, we have finished this age. We are at 100%, and I'm going to introduce you to this game a little bit. You'll be seeing a lot of this particular playthrough. This playthrough is played with Catherine the Great of Rome. So if we go here, Catherine the Great, leader of the Roman civilization. If you take a look at our legacy paths here, we will talk about them in a minute. But we went all the way through the cultural legacy path, which is awesome. We completed the goal of having 7 world wonders in our empire. We completed the military legacy path because I just like killing things. The science one and the economic one, we made progress, but weren't able to complete them. And that is where this game is at. When I click next turn, it's going to hit the age transition, but I wanted to actually answer a question right off of the top here and give you a first impression. A lot of people in the run-up to Civilization were asking the question, with all the new mechanics, with everything going on, with some of the mechanics being copied or at least inspired by other 4X games, would this feel like Civilization? I've played about 30 or so hours. This is my 5th or 6th playthrough through the first 2 ages here, and I can say that at least for me, I feel really at home in Civilization 7. It did not take me long to get comfortable. It did not take me very long to figure out what was going on. So if you're the kind of person that is excited about the mechanics in Civ 7 but are worried that it's not going to feel like Civ, it's not going to feel like home, I can say pretty confidently that my first impression of the game is it feels like a natural extension of the Civilization franchise and feels like a Civilization game that you are familiar with. But let's click next turn, though, and go through an age transition. I think it'll be very informative and give me a chance to touch on a variety of aspects of Civ 7 that I'm excited to talk about. We should get a nice, beautiful banner coming up here. Yep, that's perfect. And in just a moment here, Gwendolyn Christie is going to take over and give us an exit outro from the age. This is the kind of thing we will likely skip in time, or for a streamer likely take a bathroom break during this time here, but it's cool to have a Civilization themed and Gwendolyn Christie narrated exit to an age. It makes it feel like a little more of an experience. We have age rankings here. In this case, we dunked on the AI, which is awesome. We're just playing on standard AI. I'm a little bit scared to try deity, but I will after this video goes out. We are leading the culture path, which is what I wanted, the domination path, the science path, and the Silk Roads path. We're leading them all. We're great. We're awesome. We also have our legacies here if you want a visualization of how awesome you are. This is one of the cooler aspects of Civ 7 that I was not expecting at all. As you play the game, it is tracking your progress. The game has certain challenges separate from Steam achievements, but like in-game achievements that you can complete for experience. I did not complete any of those challenges, but as you play, you will level up your Civ 7 profile. I'm level 21. I'm playing as Catherine the Great, so I'm leveling up my leader profile. So if you main a specific leader, you might level them up really highly. If you go to your home screen, there'll be all of the leaders with all of their levels, so you can track what level you are with each leader, which is really, really cool. None of this is like pay-to-play or microtransaction-y or anything. This is just earned in-game with challenges that you complete naturally by playing. So it's just a cool little addition to Civilization that wasn't there before. And then you can edit your profile with all of the cool badges and whatnot you unlock. But let's click continue. First thing we need to do is take a look at our civilization options and pick a new civilization for this age. Now, one of the most controversial things going into Civ 7 was this change, was the fact that you will pick a leader and stick with that leader through the entire game and have to change your civilization twice. Now, I haven't played the modern age yet, so I haven't gone through the second age transition when it came to picking a civilization, but I have done this one 6, 7, 8 times, whatever it is, and so I'm pretty comfortable with how this works, and I can confidently say as a first impression, I've really enjoyed this system. I'm an easy target for this because I do not care so much about the historicity of civilization. It does not bother me to play Catherine the Great of Rome and then Catherine the Great of Spain, for instance. That doesn't bother me at all. So again, easy target here. You might care about that stuff, but this feels really natural. It's really seamless. You can tell they put a lot of effort into it. But this age transition and this picking of a new civilization is one of the things that, at least as a first impression, my first initial feeling, I feel really positively towards this, and this has been a great experience. So if you're worried about this particular transition, all I can say is that from my experience, it's been really wonderful. One of the things I like the most is that in each age, you have something to do. If you're playing Civ 6 and you play Gilgamesh, you have something to do for a little while you have your war carts, but then they fizzle out later in the game. What's best about the civilizations changing is simply that each civilization is designed to have something to do in the era that it's in, which makes for a far more positive and fun gameplay experience with each civilization, because you have unique units, unique districts, unique everything in that era, which I think just feels better than either having it come early or late or kind of weirdly in the middle. So we're going to pick Spain for this. If we go view details, it tells us what we're going to get. We have a plaza, which is our unique quarter, and we have 2 buildings which make up our unique quarter. You can place them separately. You can place them together to make the quarter, which is awesome. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But we're going to choose Spain here and move on to the exploration age. The first time I clicked continue, I was really thrown off guard. I had watched all the live streams, of course, of the devs playing the game, but they often kind of swapped saves. They didn't really go through the whole transition very often. So when you click continue, you'll notice that some things are very different. There's a real reset to the age here. You'll notice that all of these units that were here, if you go back and look, I have 3 or 4 kind of promoted units here. They're all gone. My army commander has been shifted way out here. This city here, I can't even read the title. This city here was a city. It is now a town. All of my cities that aren't my capital have been reverted back to towns. And so the age really resets the game and allows you to kind of not start from the beginning, but start from the beginning of a new age. You carry over a lot, but not everything. And a lot of our buildings, unless they're ageless buildings, are kind of depreciated. So the yields they are giving our empire are fewer. So your yields go down. You kind of have to reset and reorient yourself. If you were in the middle of a war in Tabai, for instance, all of your units are being kicked out and sent to the cities. You'll see that we have a tercio unit in each city to make up our army. So yeah, a lot of things are resetting, a lot of things are changing, and it's something that I really enjoy playing through now, but the first time I played it was really jarring and I was really confused as to what was happening. I do enjoy how they gave me a brand new game and I'm still building the pyramids and the Colosseum in my cities, but that's okay. There are some habits that never leave you. In my first game I built the Oracle. I felt like such an idiot. Anyways, we're going to choose our legacies now. The next big part of the exploration age is choosing your legacy. So the legacy options we've unlocked here are on the left. It's cool that it's also scrolling the game. That's very funny. I've never noticed that before. We have all of our legacy points here. They're obviously spendable in their category, and the wildcard point is spendable everywhere. The only thing of note here I want to mention is that you can only take 1 Golden Age ability. I've tried to take multiple. The game hasn't let me yet, so that's either a bug, which I doubt, or I'm just not allowed to. So we have the Wonders of the Ancient World Golden Age for completing the Culture Legacy path. We also have the Pax Imperatoria Golden Age for completing the military one. In this playthrough, I am going to take the Wonders of the Ancient World Golden Age. But basically, you just want to come down here and spend your points. I found most of these abilities to be awesome. The settlement limit is great. Any kind of these attribute points, I found these attribute points to be quite powerful. We're going to look at those next. So don't sweat on taking attribute points. They are worth it. So we'll just grab a military attribute point, and I'll just kind of click through here. We'll grab a Diplo point. That should be fine. A scientific one. And then we have 2 econ and a wild card. We'll just do that, and an economic point. We'll call it a day, and we'll confirm our legacy. You can see all of our points are now accumulating up here, and we need to spend them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different paths you can go down. I don't have time to go through everything. I've not even tried everything yet, but I've tried lots of it, and I find these to be suitably powerful. They are fun. They are exciting. You can kind of build a strategy around spending some of these points, but they don't feel super overpowered in my, experience so far, which has been great. We are a wonder building civ so far. We built 7 in the last era, so I'm going to take my 10% culture in cities. And I'm just going to go through and spend them as I'd like to, but you can kind of click through and spend your points. Since they have just reset, I want to talk now about the legacy paths, another big new addition to Civilization 7. In each age, you will have the 4 legacy paths, and the type of path will stay the same. You have culture, economic, military, and science, but the quests you have to go on to complete each path will change. You'll see in the first era, our goal was to build 7 wonders. It is now not an extension. We're now not trying to build 20 wonders, for instance. We are now trying to display 12 relics. In the economic one, we are now trying to gain treasure fleets. In the military one, we're getting points. And in the science one, we have 5 districts that are not in the city center with 40 total yields. When we go back and look at the other legacy paths in the Antiquity Age, it's not important that you know all of them at the moment, but what is important for me to mention is that they are different in each age. So you're not just like building wonders in one and then building wonders in another. You're going on different little quests every time you go through an age transition. You can see the developers learned something from Civilization 6, specifically the culture victory, which no one can still explain properly. It's very, very difficult to understand how the hell that works. So they've really gone and given you easy to understand tasks here. They've put them in bold: study piety, establish whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you can go through and see all of this stuff. You have your quests here, you can track your progress, and so all of these are really easy to follow and really easy to understand. It did not take me long to figure out what I was meant to do to achieve these legacy paths, which was really welcome after the cultural victory in Civ 6 that I still don't fully understand after 2,000 hours. Let's talk briefly now about the science and civic trees as well. In each age, you will get 2 trees to work through. The tech tree is just a pretty standard tech tree. I have nothing huge to report here. It works like a tech tree does in most Civilization games. What I will say, though, is this works a little differently than how I suspected in practice. And so when you go through the tech trees, I assumed what I would want to do, just based on seeing it played by the devs, is kind of take all your big movements here, your big kind of chunky boys, your overarching techs, and you'll kind of go through all of these here, and then you'll circle back for the masteries later. In practice, I was going about half and half. Every once in a while, I'd want one of the big kind of overarching techs. Every once in a while, I'd want one of the masteries, so I'd circle back for it. I found the game had a lot of give and take in this tech tree, which I really, really enjoyed. I was able to kind of go through the big ones or circle back and kind of stay in this realm and just collect the masteries before I moved on, and both felt like gameplay options I could choose to take, which I really enjoyed. We'll see how it works on higher difficulties, but for now I feel like I had a lot of freedom to kind of commit to the tech tree and circle back, or to just check off the masteries as I went along. You'll see here too, the masteries are no joke. This mastery here gives you +3 combat strength for ranged and siege units. This mastery here gives you +3 combat strength for naval units. All embarked land units may enter deep ocean terrain. These masteries rock. They are really good abilities, and they really do master the thing that you've researched. So this whole thing felt really great to me. I really enjoyed it. The tech tree rocks. It's awesome. The civics tree, though, is where I got the most excited, mostly because I was not paying attention in the marketing and did not realize how this was going to work. Your civic tree works like the tech tree. So you got your civics, you've got your masteries. The plus signs are just abilities you get. So +1 settlement limit, receive a relic, etc., etc. Up here, these little quills here are the policy cards. So you'll spend your policy cards like you did in Civ 6 a little bit. And so those unlock policy cards, but they're not abilities you just get. You have to actually slot them in once you acquire them. What we have here, though, is my favorite part of any of the tech trees, and that's a tech tree or a civic tree unique to your civ. So we pick Spain, so we're going to go to Spanish civics. And here we have our 2 unique buildings. So if we want our unique buildings, we're going to have to come in here into the civic tree, and then you got your own little abilities and masteries here. You can see as Spain, we can unlock a policy card, +2 gold for each resource that's not available to the other people playing this game. So you're getting unique policy cards for your civ, unique buildings for your civ. I found this to be really, really fun so far with every civ that I've played, to have my own civics to go through and kind of achieve, and it really feels like you're customizing the game a little bit around your civ. I will say, though, that there is a little bit of awkwardness with the tech trees when you get to the end of them. Part of this is that I might be playing on a difficulty that's really low. It's just the standard one, I just haven't changed it. But I'm frequently a little bit ahead of the AI. If you got to the end of the last era, you would have seen it had about double their yields. And so often what happens is if one of these numbers is bigger than the other, so I have like 200 culture and 50 science or whatever, and I'm getting to the end of a tech tree, what the tech tree does at the end, if you get to the future, you can only go through this once, so it's not like you can just keep doing the future civic. but it adds 10 to the age progressed, and I frequently found myself having to like neuter the thing I was good at to let the other thing catch up. So if I was really good at science, for instance, right, I had like 200 science and 70 culture. So I'm here, I got 200 science, I'm going all the way through. I get to gunpowder and urban planning, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to get future tech yet. It'll push it to the next era. I still have stuff I want to do. I got to go through and collect all the masteries. I got to lower my science per turn, because in the culture tree, I still want to unlock some of these wonders and some of these policies, and I want to build this is a hard one to pronounce, the Bree Hadziwarar Temple. And I want to build that temple, so I can't end the age before I get diplomatic service. And so there's a little bit of awkwardness if you're really far ahead in one and the other's lagging behind. The game kind of takes you to the next age before you can let it catch up and use the cool stuff there. A small issue for me so far, but it has felt strange the couple of times it's kind of come up. I'm now going to load up different save points from a variety of different games to show off different aspects of Civilization 7. Before I do, though, while we're here on the screen, I want to go over briefly the UI. I've loaded up Ben Franklin just so you have something different to look at, but let's talk about the UI. If you are a console player, I think you are going to love this UI. It was clearly designed with cross-play in mind. Take this PC save, play it on a console, and vice versa. Lots of easily navigable vertical and horizontal menus. You can imagine how easy it would be to scroll over here with a joystick, same in kind of your diplomacy menu, scroll over with a joystick, scroll down with a joystick, very easy stuff. So if you are a console player, I imagine you are going to enjoy this UI very much. This is obviously great for our console friends, and I'm glad the UI seems to be well suited to you. It's not even poorly suited to PC or anything. I'm having a good time with it. There's very few rough edges around it, but there are some things that I do miss. There's some quality of life features that are just missing from Civ 7 that were in Civ 6 that I'm really struggling not to have. We have no search function here, so I can't search wonders if they're being built. I can't search how many quarters I have or how many fishing boats I have. As someone who's trying to learn the game and make tutorials and whatnot, having a search function would be amazing. Same with the pin function. I can't pin anything on the map either. It's made learning how to like set up my cities and the adjacency bonuses a little bit more difficult, so I'd love to see a search and pin function return at some point. I also haven't found a way yet to rename my cities. Another little quality of life feature I really appreciated in this. It might be likely they've disabled it just so I don't rename them something stupid for this video. And all of these features might end up in like a day one patch or later on down the line. So maybe I'll be blowing smoke in a second here. But there's just a few quality of life features that are missing. Otherwise, it works like a UI does in PC games. It's not perfectly optimized for PC. Most PC players are going to want to download a UI mod, but you are going to be able to hop into Civ and feel comfortable and not be, the UI is not going to make the experience worse for you. The highlight of the UI, though, is this little system right here to go over your relationships. We have the skull if you're hostile. You have a thumbs down if we kind of don't like you, a thumbs up if we're homies. This UI system up here has been a highlight so far. Another thing that's not here that was in Civ 6 that I think PC players would be interested in knowing is that there's no way to kind of speed up the animations or turn off the unit movement animations, which means that if you come through here and you want to do all these movements, you kind of have to go through the animation every time. This isn't a big deal. They kind of programmed around this a little bit. If I send this guy, this man-at-arms or whatever to attack, when that animation's happening, I can kind of just scroll over and do something else while it's going on. But it does make the game take longer for sure, having to go through all of the unit animations. So if you're planning to put thousands of hours into it and you are the kind of person who played Civ 6 with the animation fast movement canceling setting on, just know that at least in this part of Civ 7 it's not there, so expect to have to watch the animations every time. The next thing I want to show off is a little bit of naval combat. All of the combat in general and the way these commanders work and the way the units work has been a real bright spot in this playthrough so far. Played about 30 hours, really enjoyed the combat in every single game, so let's talk about it a little bit. Like most Civ games, you have your units, but in Civ 7, you have your commanders. This is one of the things that most of the fans of Civ 7 were really, really excited for going into it. Unlike, the age transitions or the leader Civ thing, this seemed pretty universally beloved, and I can say here that I'm having a great time with it. My first impression is very positive. So what I've done here is I've packed all of my naval units here. I have a bunch of Firaxis into my fleet commander, and I can move them all just by moving my fleet commander, right? This is not only helpful because you're kind of moving 5 units with one click, so it saves you all of that time. The commanders are designed to make it more efficient. They kind of insist upon themselves in a way that I really like. Not only will you get annoyed if you're just moving single units, you'll get annoyed because they'll move slower. You will usually move faster with a fleet commander, so that is what I'm trying to do here. The same thing as with an army commander as well. You will see I have one somewhere around here. Yeah, he's on the water here with my units. If I move my army commander across the water, he's going to be taking the units. But again, they kind of insist upon themselves. It takes a little while before your crossbow without an army commander can cross the open ocean, right? And so these army commanders are really helpful in this phase of the game. And so these commanders work brilliantly. So I've packed up all my units here, and I'm going to unpack them. I'll show you the military one on the land later. But for now, we're just going to deploy them here, and boom. All of my units get deployed in an order, in a formation that the game thinks makes sense. You can also deploy them individually if you'd like to be very, very persnickety about where they go. It takes me a turn because I don't have the promotion that allows them to move and attack right away. But once that's done, I can go to each of my Firaxis and attack individually if I'd like to do that. Or I can do something super cool. I can get my commander here. I'm going to move it to cover, yep, this radius is covering as many as possible, which is awesome. This is the command radius here in white, so all of the units here will have the promotions and have the influence of the fleet commander. So I can attack individually, or I can do this barrage land target ability that allows them all to attack one target. Not only, again, is this more efficient sometimes if you're trying to attack one target and not multiple, it also insists upon itself a little bit. It has +2 combat strength for this attack, so it's encouraging you to use this, and I find it really fun. So let's zoom in and take out a heavy archer here in this, what is this, city-state barbarian, whatever it is. Boom. Yeah, sorry, homies. That was very sad. And you'll see that all of the units that attacked in my radius here gave experience to the fleet commander. These promotion trees with both the fleet commanders and the army commanders have been incredible so far. I found myself going into all 5 trees with both commanders and finding different ways to utilize them. So my first impression of this is that this is very versatile, very fun. My favorite one to go down with the fleet commander so far has been this one here, Spotter, +1 ranged attack distance for naval units. And you only need 2 promotions, which is not hard to get. 2 promotions is very easy to get. So I've had a lot of fun with just a whole armada of Navy units that have extra range, but the one that moves the units around really quickly has been really nice. I found a way to like make maneuver really good, get a fleet commander, and then take my treasure fleets really quickly across the ocean. And so that's been really fun for me. So yeah, all of these are great. I have my favorites so far, but you can actually make use of each of these 5 categories, and then you have your commendations at the bottom, which I haven't had the chance to play around with too much yet, but I have had a couple, and they're pretty fun. Because of my extreme bloodlust, I've also set up one of these with a military commander. It's level 4. Our unique legatus is putting in the shift, kind of taking out Chichen Itza here. So you can see very similar to the fleet commanders. We can click in here. We have all of our abilities at the bottom. I can unpack the units. This is level 4, so it should have 3 promotions. This one here, Bulwark, I got for free from being Rome for some reason. I can't remember. But also these 2 here in Assault, I've really enjoyed. I've taken this one here in Leadership and really enjoyed it. Getting those extra yields was quite powerful in the city that I did it in another playthrough. And then Maneuver and Logistics have both been amazing. I've used this one here to hoard quite a bit of gold by just packing units into my commander. And then this one to move around the map has also been exceptionally useful. So much like the fleet commanders, all of these have their purpose and have their use. And I've already had a good time going down each of them, which is great. There's a little bit of balance there. But this one here, I can move when I unpack. And then I have 2 combat strength for infantry units, which is like this version, or this game's version of melee units. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to unpack here, and boom, I can immediately attack. If I wanted to do that big attack, I would kind of move these 2 up, move the commander up, and then next turn do that attack. But for right now, I can just move in here and attack individually, major victory, etc., etc. We're going to have a good time. We'll move these folks up. We'll attack with our, not our legatus, our ballista here. Siege weapon. Boom. Yeah, that did a lot of damage. Maybe should have attacked with that first. There's 2 other things I want to highlight here. One of the things I didn't realize when I first started taking cities is that in this game, you have to kill everything in the city so you can weaken all the defenses. And then you got to weaken the defenses of other tiles if they have them, which is a whole other thing. Once that's done, though, you got to kill the unit, you got to kill the commander. It's a whole thing. It doesn't just take out the unit like it does in Civ 6. So even if you take out the defenses, you might be here for a while, taking out all the units they throw into the city. But otherwise, I found the combat to be really fun and a huge improvement over Civ 7 for the most part. It's just a first impression. I might change my mind as I keep going with it, but I've really enjoyed the combat so far. One of the other things about these units that I would like to note is you'll see a lot of them are kind of look like they're promoted. They have these little, I can't remember what they're called, these little symbols underneath. Somebody in the military is going to be really mad at me in the comments, but I'm sorry. And that's because unlike Civ 6, where a lot of the units go from like one unit to another one, so you go from a warrior to a swordsman to a man-at-arms, for most units, there's actually a couple of promotions in between. Let's go into the tech tree and see how the legions progress. So for our ranged units, we have the typical Civ thing. You start with a slinger here in animal husbandry. It goes to an archer in bronzeworking. For our legions, though, we started with a legion. So we had a legion. We got it at the beginning of the game. It's our unique unit. It was their level 1 legion going to town. As we level up, though, you'll see the Legion symbol again. It's not a different unit, this is just a different upgrade, a Tier 2 Roman unique infantry unit. So you upgrade your level 1 Legion to a level 2 Legion, then your level 2 Legion to a level 3 Legion, giving you more kind of smaller upgrades as you go instead of these big, heavy, drastic upgrades. I think it makes the combat feel a little more even. You can't just rush ahead to the next whole thing and then circle back and destroy everything. If you have level 2 Legions and someone's ahead, they might have level 3 legions, but it's smaller than the disparity between like a swordsman and a man-at-arms, for instance. And finally, the last thing I should mention is you can have multiple of these kind of commanders. We're in the Antiquity Age now, so it's just the Legatus, but I can build another one in 6 turns, so you can have multiple ones with multiple different sets of promotions in different trees if you like. I found myself trying to get 2 kind of army commanders and 2 fleet commanders in the respective ages. Once you get to the 2nd age, you're going to have both, but I go for 2 most of the time, and I had a good time with that, but you can build more if you like. And when they get killed, if they get killed in a fight, they're out for a while. It's longer than you think it's going to be. They will respawn, but you want to try and get these guys defended because they will get killed and then be out of action for a while. The last thing about combat I think you'll be excited to know about is that the AI will actually give you cities in exchange for ending wars. You'll see I have Little Axe here in the middle of nowhere. What happened in this game is they declared war on me somewhere over here. They were coming to attack me. I beat them back. I held them off. And then I was kind of aggressing upon their territory. And instead of me just going through and wiping everything out, they were like, hey, I'll give you a whole entire city here to stop the war. So you can acquire settlements this way. And what I loved about it, it was after a defensive war. So I hunkered down. I did my best. I kind of stayed the course. I defended my empire, and in return, I got rewarded with a city for winning that war, which is amazing. And this was the first time it happened. It's happened a few times since then, and I've got like capital cities from it if you're doing well enough. And so it was such a fun little mechanic here that felt like it existed in Civ 6, but was never actually usable. Now you will be attaining cities via peace offerings in Civ 7. There are 2 things I want to talk about quickly in this load of the save game. The first is crossing deep ocean. I found this to be a really interesting aspect of the exploration age. Really early in the tech tree in cartography, a lot of your units can cross deep ocean. They're going to take damage, but civilian and support units, as well as your kind of boat units, can cross deep ocean. I found it pretty helpful to kind of go along and see if you can find a way across with only 1 or 2 deep ocean tiles. You'll be able to survive for 3 or 4, but it's a little more reliable than kind of just yeeting yourself into the ocean and hoping for the best. So if I want to go here, for instance, I get stuck in the deep ocean tile. I can only move 1 tile at a time. I'm going to take some damage for doing that, but I have an easy way to the coast of the distant lands here, and I can start maneuvering my way around. But you can also see if I want to take a settler along the way and start settling the distant lands, I can do that as well. Later on in the tech tree, you can get to shipbuilding, which is a little bit longer ahead than I thought it was going to be. It takes a little while, but that'll allow all of your units to kind of cross without penalty from the deep ocean. So you can just cross, you gain your movement back as well, so it won't automatically stop your movement on these deep ocean tiles. The main thing I want to point out, though, is this just was a little bit deeper than I thought it was going to be, and I had to get used to it taking a while for that shipbuilding to get in here. And then when you get the mastery, you can finally send your land military units across without an army commander as well, which is quite nice. The other thing I wanted to go over here was our unique quarters. So not every Civ has a unique quarter, but most of them do. And what you need to do for your unique quarters is this. So let's explain some terminology here. Anytime you put 2 buildings on a tile, you're going to get a quarter. So this is a temple and a blacksmith on this tile here. That is a quarter, right? But every civ, not every civ, some civs have a unique quarter. So what you need to do is you need to go into your civics here, and you need to unlock, sorry, that's the wrong one. You need to unlock your unique buildings. So here we have the Casa Consistorial and the Casa de Contratacion. So we unlocked both of them. We are ready to go. What happens is you need to build them both on the same tile. So you want to find the one that has the most strict placement rules. So Casa Consistorial, ageless, must be built in the homelands adjacent to a coast. So you can build this one first on a coast, or you just want to make sure you build this one on a coast so they can go together. This one here just needs to be in the homeland, so that's a little bit easier. I've already put down my Casa Consistorial, so I'm going to purchase my second building here. You can see there's a lot of tiles for this to work. Anytime you're building something, if you're building it on a yellow tile, right, these 3 yellow tiles here, it means you are kind of taking something away from that tile. So this one is going to build over a woodcutter. This one is going to build over a woodcutter as well. It's also warning me that if I place this here, I cannot complete the plaza, our unique quarter, because the other building does not exist on this tile. So it's giving me a little warning. Anything that's light green here, you're just starting a new urban tile. So there's nothing really on this tile. You are just starting a new urban tile. Still can't complete the plaza if I put it here, but can just start a new tile fresh and not kind of work over any of these things here. If you're building on a green tile, you are either adding it to a building that already exists to make a quarter, so you're not getting rid of anything, you're just adding it to, or you're overbuilding something that's now defunct, right? And so this one is going to build over the barracks, but it's bolded green because the barracks were from the previous age. We can get rid of them. They're not helping us much in this age at all, so we're overbuilding on the barracks here. In this case, though, I'm going to purchase this building on the same tile as our other unique building to create our unique quarter. Place the Casa de Contratacion here to complete the plaza. Let's do that. Bazinga. And boom, we've got our unique plaza. How cool is that? I suppose now is a good time to talk about narrative choices. These are going to pop up all the time. I want to say 2 things about these. First off, these happen every once in a while. You got your goodie huts, you got things that happen in game. I got a pop-up here when I built the Colosseum. It's like, hey, the Colosseum's here, people are happy, get some benefit. This one is building for our unique quarter, so it says here, the beauty of the plaza draws many visitors, etc., etc. So these narrative events are fun, and I want to say they are very well executed. Whoever designs these narrative events did a great job to make them feel like a role-playing part of the game. The problem is, and what I suspected the problem would be, is just like any other game that has narrative events that aren't critical to the game, this is not really a role-playing game in that way. I just don't even read this, and I go to my 2 options, and I either take the 375 culture, or I take the 750 happiness towards a celebration, and I don't really care about this part much, so for me at least, these narrative events happen. You can choose to be immersed in the world and kind of read them all and really enjoy that, or you can just take the benefit. What I will say, though, is that at the very least, if you are going to enjoy them, they are really well done and really good, and I've enjoyed the ones I've read, just for speed and efficiency, though, and because I'm just trying to take the bonus I want, I'll probably just click through them for most of the game. Separately, though, I've not really struggled with yields in my game, so I've had a lot of fun taking happiness towards celebrations. I love celebrations. They're awesome. They're amazing, so let's go talk about celebrations. Celebrations occur when you achieve enough happiness in your empire. You're going to get them multiple times in age, ideally. If you come up here to your social policy screen and click overview, it'll tell you how many turns are left until the next celebration. I cannot wait until this info is just kind of in the UI up here in terms of how many turns we have left, but that's okay. It's going to let you know when you're going to hit your next celebration. The government you've selected will give you your 2 options for a celebration. So every time you hit one, you are going to choose one of these 2 things. This cannot be changed within the age, so you've got to pick your government carefully at the beginning of each age. And then you come in here and you see our 2 options. I can choose 20% culture for 10 turns or 40% productions towards civilian and support units for 10 turns. I'm going to take the culture, and boom, we've got our celebration. But that's not all. The best part, though, is that it gives you more policy card slots. So you don't want to skimp on the happiness, right? You might think to yourself, oh, I can get rid of all my happiness because it's just giving me celebrations that I don't need. But no, no, no. Every time you get a celebration, you get a new policy slot. You can slot in something new. This is replacing kind of the red, yellow, green card system from Civ 6. And so you can take any combination of any cards and slot them in if you want. There's no kind of limit to this other than how many celebrations you have to unlock these social policies. I will say quickly about the social policies, though, I've enjoyed them. I only found one that really broke one of my games. I'm not going to show it to you right now, but there was one that gave like 2 culture to all of the coastal units, and I was playing a very coastal civ and had like 1,000 or 1,100 culture in the exploration age, which was really, really fun. But yeah, so I've only found one social policy that truly felt broken so far, but most of these feel like acceptable social policy cards like they did in Civ 6. This is a great time for me to pivot to trading and resource management. It has had a facelift for Civilization 7, and so far I've really enjoyed the new system. In each age, you are going to unlock a merchant unit through the tech tree somewhere near the beginning, and then you're going to build these merchants and send them to trade with other civs. So here I have a merchant unit. I've got it in my cities. You can keep making them. They're pretty cheap to purchase, and you can make a lot of them fairly easily. 4 turns, or how many gold to buy? 240, so really, really cheap to buy. They get more expensive as you have more. You automatically have a certain amount of trade routes you are allowed with each civ. You can upgrade that, which we'll talk about in a second. But as you go through, you're going to take a merchant that is within range of your kind of cities here. You're going to send them to a city that has resources to trade. You're going to trade for that resource, and then you're going to click make a route. It'll add a road to the map as well, which is nice. If we take a look at our resources before, we'll circle back to this in a moment, you'll see that there's no wine anywhere. We are trading for wine. We don't have any wine anywhere on our screen. So here we're going to click our trade route. It's going to create the road, etc. This road already existed, so bad example, but that's okay. We're going to go to resources, and boom, in our empire-wide resources, we are now gaining +3 happiness in the capital and plus 10% culture when in a celebration. That's just happening to our empire because we got the wine. Resource management has also been a highlight. There are a variety of different types of resources, and they're all fairly powerful if you stack them in certain ways. And so you can come here, you have your empire resources, so as you collect them, they just give you effects to your empire, which is quite nice. So you have your city resources here that can only go in cities, so if you have any towns, they cannot go in there. So we can attach, oh my god, I've done this horribly. We can attach the camel to a city to give it extra slots, and then we can attach this bonus resource to either a city or a town, which is awesome. So if you want to upgrade your towns, you can kind of attach this effect to a town, which is really nice. As you go into different ages, the resources have different abilities. So there's got to be one here. We're in the exploration age. So this one here has happiness to homeland cities, but +6 happiness to distant land cities. So sometimes they'll give you different bonuses depending on which type of city you put them in, which I found to be a little bit engaging and a little bit fun to kind of move your resources around to get the best effect out of them. So yeah, lots to play around with in the resource management. While I'm here as well, let's talk quickly about what you can do with influence. I found the influence system to be, more engaging than I thought it was going to be honest. But there's a lot you can do with influence. There's a lot of cool options up here. I will say I'll miss being able to negotiate with the civs, but there's kind of a lot of pre-built options you can spend some influence on. So if I want open borders, they can either accept or deny it by spending influence, but I can propose that to them. I can improve trade relations and get an extra trade route. These ones here are quite cool. I can do a research collab, so I'll get 8 science per turn. They're going to get 4 science per turn. So if I propose that to him, he's going to accept it. I'm going to get that science per turn 8. He's going to get that science per turn 4. And so he's made a determination that either building a good relationship for me or him taking 4 science is worth giving me 8. And you can do that reciprocally. They're going to send these to you as well. And so, yeah, lots you can do here. You can denounce people to worsen your relationship and start a war. You can do all kinds of sanctions. And so I found that to be quite engaging. I've really enjoyed having to worsen my relationship with people to start a war, which has been fun. So, yeah, this has been great. We're having a good time in the influence system. You can also use your influence with what I'll just call city-states for the purposes of this video. In the exploration age, they kind of spawn like this, not as barbarians. In the antiquity age, they kind of spawn as barbarians first, but you're going to do the same thing to either. You can either kind of leave them alone or kill them or whatever. I don't even think you can kill all of these in the exploration age, but I haven't played around with it enough yet. But in the antiquity age, you can certainly just kill them if you want to do that. It's a good way to promote your army commander. But you're going to click on the tile here. Don't click on this. Do not click on the label. It's not going to do anything. And I played like 3 games of Civ 7 just clicking on labels, and I literally went like this every single time I wanted to talk to a city-state. So I was dumb. You got to click on the tile. But your option's going to come up here. You can befriend these independent nations. As you befriend, it's going to tick up per turn. You can add influence to add these per turn benefits. So if you want to keep choosing city-states, you can do that instead of killing them or ignoring them or whatever else you can do. So we are going to come in and we're going to go to Kamage. We just became the suzerain, so we can choose our bonus. I found these bonuses to be really good. Do not sleep on choosing city-states. Ignoring them or getting rid of them in the Antiquity Age is a great strategy. Making them your suzerain is also a great strategy because these abilities are really awesome. An extra social policy slot is so good. Remember when we all built a whole wonder in Civ 6 for an extra policy slot? And so getting an extra policy slot is amazing. A relic is going to help us towards our kind of victory achievement, so that's awesome. So yeah, these abilities are quite good. So what I like here are the options. I can either take these abilities and invest my influence here and get something good out of it, or I can just ignore the whole thing completely, spend my influence on getting science and culture and gold and whatever through the endeavors and have fun with that. So the influence can be spent in multiple places, but wherever you spend it, I think there's good and bad things about spending it everywhere, which is exactly what you want. Growing my cities is still the aspect of the game I'm most trying to wrap my head around. Not fully understanding it, I think I've got that pretty clear, but just really trying to maximize the strategy and figure out what it is you want to do. So let's grow a city here and take a look at what we have to do. If we grow our cities, we have a couple of options. We can go on these tiles here and make fishing boats or make woodcutters, right? And that'll add a rural tile. So anytime you're going on a tile and making a tile improvement, you are making a rural tile. If you want to go and make an urban tile, you're going to do that by placing buildings. So you're not doing that by growing your cities. When we placed our unique quarter earlier, we were making an urban tile. And if we built over the woodcutter, we would change it from rural to urban. So I hope that terminology makes sense. What we can do later, though, in the exploration is just start adding specialists. The amount of specialists you can add per tile increases as you go through the tree. The most I've had in one tile is 3 specialists, which is important for getting that achievement for 40 yields on a bunch of tiles. But if you come in here, you'll see we're going to lose 2 food and lose 2 happiness, so we got to manage those. But we're going to gain science and culture. I've taken an ability that'll give me production. We're gaining food because water resource, I suppose. I'm still learning everything. But it tells you what you lose. It tells you what you gain. And you can kind of really amp up your science and culture here. What I've enjoyed about this is it's a fun little balance. What I can do is like, okay, I have a lot of empire happiness, and I want to get production buildings. So I'm going to build all my production buildings, and I'm going to get my science and culture, not from science and culture buildings, but I'll get them from specialists because I have a high amount of food. I'm growing a lot. I'll just get the culture and science that way. Or I have a low amount of food. I'll get all my culture and science buildings, and then won't use the specialists for that. And so there's a lot of cool ways strategically to play with this. I suppose I should show you what it looks like when you grow a town. You'll see we don't have these same specialist options. We are kind of just making tile improvements here. You can still get buildings and quarters, or at least some buildings and quarters, not all of them, but we can take 2 buildings and make a quarter. We can still do that. Or we can make a tile improvement here. So with a town, all you do when you grow is improve tiles, right? We're not building specialists here, so your option is just to improve a tile. We're going to put this mine down here. It says picking this tile will give you a mine. I'm going to get the 2 production. I'm going to get the 2 happiness, and we're going to do that. One thing to keep in mind with this, though, is visually it's a little bit different than Civilization 6. On the tiles, it tells you the yields you're going to get when you put something on it. Because we don't have population working it the same way, we just picked a tile to work when we grew. It looks like you have more yields in your empire than you have. You're only actually getting the yields from places you've put the mine or put the resource, or you know what I mean? You're not getting the food and production from this tile just yet. The reason why that's important, though, is if I take this brickyard, I'm going to purchase this brickyard, I'm going to place it down here. You'll see this mine is going to go from 2 to 3 production because it's going to add 1 production on mines, but it's also going to add 1 production on every tile that could possibly have a mine, thus showing us what we would get if we put a mine on that tile. So just visually, it's a little bit different, but let's purchase this. You can only purchase with towns. You can't produce, so make of that what you will. We're going to put this down. I'm going to put it over the altar. I'm going to overbuild, create a quarter here, and do that. And boom, we have got our quarter there now all built up. You can see we went to 3 production on the mine, and we've increased the production on every tile that could have a mine. While we're here, I'll just go over some of the terminology. So when you play Civ 7 for the first time, you're kind of already know what's going on. Anything that's ageless will survive through the age transition, so it'll not depreciate. You usually build over this stuff anyways, but it will last for the entire game if you want it to. Anything that is a warehouse building will give you yields on all of the tiles of that type. So if we have a fishing key here, +1 food on all fishing boats. And so these are great to build in cities with a lot of the thing you're trying to get. If you know you are going to be building a lot of fishing boats, you can get a fishing key. I'm only going to get 1 food for putting it down, but then every time I get a fishing boat on all of these tiles, I will get another one and another one and another one. So these warehouse buildings can be quite powerful, even though they're quite cheap. If you know you're going to be getting a lot of a thing in a city, these warehouse buildings can be really helpful. Towns can also have a focus, and I will admit this is the part of the game I forget about the most. The amount of times I get to the end of the exploration age and realize I haven't changed many of my town's focuses is embarrassing. But I played around with a few of them, and I think it's really fun. So you can come in here. I usually just pick the most, right? So I can get 2 production on all our camps and mines. So I'll just pick that because we've seen a mine. Boom, mining town. And now all of a sudden we're getting 5 production on that mine. Let us now talk about the crisis system in Civilization 7. One of the few things so far where my first impression is a little less than favorable, I think. I'll have to play around with it. I've only experienced 2 of the potential crises, and I've confirmed that there are more for me to experience that I just haven't had the chance yet. So once I experience everything, I'll be able to get a better kind of grip of what's going on here. But at the end of the age here, you are going to have a crisis. I looked at the wrong screen. We got to come up to our overview here and our crisis. The age begins. This was the start of the game. The crisis begins. It intensifies. It culminates. So every single time that happens, you need to put in a policy card here that detracts from your empire. The thing that I was experiencing here is the things that detract from it never detracted from it enough for me to make it feel like it was a crisis. I was like, oh no, I got to put these in. Oh, darn. Twice in 2 different games, the crisis happened and these policy cards actually helped. And it would frequently give me ones that my cities would gain minus whatever if they were following my religion, but I hadn't spread my religion to any of my cities, and so I just, whatever, cool, right? What I will say, though, is there's 2 crises I've experienced. The cards or whatever. There's the barbarian one, so at the end of the Antiquity Age, a bunch of barbarians will spawn, and they're kind of annoying. What I found interesting about that is every time it happened, it was just free promotions for my military commander. I would just gather all my legions in my commander. I would go and kill the crisis, and I'd be like, cool, I just got 3 levels or whatever on my military commander, or a bunch of bonuses from taking out these city-states. So again, didn't really feel like a crisis. I was like, oh, free promo, sick. This one here has felt most like the crisis. This is the first time I've experienced this one, and this one is actually doing some bad stuff. It knocked a bunch of food off some of tiles here, so some of these tiles had more food, which kind of stinks. But it's also put my city in a state of unrest, so I can't like produce anything. So this is more crisisy. This could hit a city where you're really crucially relying on something. Like if you're behind and the wrong city gets hit, that's a problem. The reason why this doesn't feel particularly crisisy is because it's happening to everyone. Like everyone's experienced the crisis, so every empire just has a city that's like this, and so it seems like it just neuters everyone equally. So if you were ahead, you're likely staying ahead. If you were behind, you're likely staying behind. I haven't felt yet like the crisis feels like a crisis, like, oh no, it's happening. And because it always happens at the same point, right, you can prepare for it. Like every time we get to the crisis begins here, I'll start getting my army together, getting my military commander, moving it to where the empty spaces where the city-states could go, and kind of preempt the crisis. When you know the crisis is coming from the beginning of the game, and you know exactly when it's going to come, it makes it a little easy to be prepared for it. So my first impression of the crisis system is that it doesn't detract from the game at all. I've had fun with them. Like I never got to a crisis and be like, oh, my experience is worse than it was before the crisis, but it's never felt like a capital C crisis at all. I'm kind of like, oh cool, it's crisis time. I'm not going to touch too much on religion because it's the aspect of the game I've played around with the least. But what I like about the religion so far in the Antiquity Age is this Pantheon mechanic feels pretty good. So you're going to acquire a Pantheon, you're going to pick your Pantheon, but unlike Civ 6 where your Pantheon just applies everywhere, it only applies to cities where you have an altar, or towns where you have an altar, which is cool because not only do you have to pick the Pantheon, you then have to actively choose to like spend a little bit of time implementing the Pantheon, which I thought was like a welcome little thing going on with the Pantheon. So that was fun. In the exploration age, a religion really starts to pop off. Everyone can get a religion. You just kind of get it by building a temple. And so it's really easy to get a religion if you research the right thing and go and build it. You're going to get a reliquary belief plus 2 relics for first time, whatever. You can choose your reliquary belief. This is pretty important because you're trying to get relics in your culture path. So if you're going down the culture or legacy path, you're going to want to pay attention when you create your religion. You're going to get a founder belief here, and then you're going to go through and unlock more beliefs. When you spread your religion, you'll see there are 2 different symbols here. To spread your religion, all you've got to do is take a military unit. Where do I have a temple? I do have one here. Can I purchase a missionary? Oh, I sure can. 600 gold. Let's do it. So each of these is indicating which religion is followed in my urban tiles and in my rural tiles. So if I want to convert the religion, I take my missionary and I use a conversion charge on the urban tile, and boom. Now the urban part of my city follows my religion, or Flutterby, and the rural part still follows the other religion. What's interesting about this is that there's no difference made at all between the cities. Like, it doesn't matter how many people are following it. Always takes 2 charges to convert a city. One on the urban tile, one on a rural tile that has like an improvement on it, and then you're done. So if you have 4 charges, you will be able to convert 2 cities. They are really helpful. The bonuses and everything for the religions are really interesting and engaging, and there's a lot of depth to that. But the actual spreading of them I found to be a little bit tedious and just like a little bit strange. It's a weird kind of uncanny valley of how the cities interact with having their religion changed, but otherwise, that's how you do it. So if you wanted to know more about religion, there you go. One of the things I probably didn't emphasize enough earlier was how powerful resource allocation is. You're going to want to be collecting a lot of these empire resources. You can see here that stacking jade is giving me multiple boosts of 10% culture, which is amazing. In another game, I've been able to stack another resource and just get like 1,000,000 gold in my cities, which has been awesome. You're going to want your merchants. You're going to want your trade routes. You're going to want to come in here and get more trade routes. They are a huge part of the game, and this resource allocation has been an immensely fun and exciting new part of Civilization 7. I found each age to be fairly well paced. You can see they count the turns independently in each age now, so I'm on turn 75 of the second age. I've been kind of getting my age transitions around turn 120 or turn 130, if that helps. Obviously a big volatility there depending on how the game's going, but around 120, 130 is where I've been, so I'm probably about 50 turns away. I found that I've been kind of getting to the end of the legacy paths around 80% of the way through the ages, which is nice. I'm sure you can speed that up a little bit, but the way they've kind of timed out these legacy paths seems to be that you're getting your golden ages around the 80% mark if you're really focusing on it, and then you might pick up another couple in that remaining 20%. I have found, though, the yielding and the economy to be a little bit out of whack, and I'm not sure if it's just the way I'm playing or the difficulty I'm playing on or whatever, but you can see here by the end of an age, I'm only like a halfway through this one, you have no problem acquiring kind of mass amounts of science and mass amounts of culture, and I found that I've been pretty easily able to finish one or both of the civic and tech tree far before this is anywhere near 100%. What that means is it kind of artificially pushes the age forward, which has been a little bit awkward. Another thing that's felt maybe a little bit off is the way gold and production interact in my game so far, and it might be a combination of the civs I'm playing or just the coastal nature of a lot of the maps that I'm playing on. I've had no problem acquiring kind of mass amounts of golds and stockpiling it up, so I've kind of just been able to buy things in otherwise low production cities in a way that doesn't feel like I'm kind of paying a cost for them to have low production. In your standard game of Civ 7 that I've played so far through the first 2 ages, by the time I get to the exploration age or the end of the exploration age, I'll have 3 or 4 kind of big cities, and I'll have been able to purchase every single building in those cities as they come through. So it's very rare I get to the age of my capital cities or kind of my bigger cities don't just have literally everything I can build in them, because the production is really quick. You'll see I have no problem acquiring kind of large amounts of production or large amounts of gold, and so I'm able to just literally produce and buy everything right away in most of my cities. Where that's felt really nice, though, is unlike Civ 6, I feel like I'm not punished as much for purchasing kind of other units, merchants, settlers, those types of things. Just overall in the economy feel less expensive. So I'm able to produce buildings and whatever, but I can also buy a merchant or buy a settler and feel like I'm not having to go out of my way to do that. So that's been a real highlight for me. If you come to Roma, though, you'll see I only have 2 buildings unlocked that I haven't actually built. It would cost me like 1 more turn of gold to just build both of them, right? So you can see how easy it is for me to just go to all my cities and just throw down all of the buildings I want without actually having to produce them all the time. I also wanted to touch briefly on the relationship between the settlement limit and how that feels in the game. Overall, I think it's best to play Civ 7 at or above the settlement limit. I felt pretty comfortable one above without having too harsh a penalty, two above sometimes if I need to, but kind of around the settlement limit is definitely where you want to be. What's great about this system is that you can play wide or tall at the settlement limit. So if I have 14 settlements, I can choose to have 2 cities and 12 towns, or 13 cities and 1 town if I want to spend my gold on converting things to cities. So there's kind of wide and tall gameplay within the settlement limit, but in every game I've played so far, I felt like it's been far better for me to be at the settlement limit than it has to do like the Civ 5 thing where you're playing and only using 4 or 5 cities or towns. I could be really wrong on that as I play the game more and discover what the best strategies are. But I think if you're looking for a wide or tall point of view, the settlement limit has worked great for me, but playing at the settlement limit seems to be better than not, and then you can decide how many cities and towns you want within that settlement limit. I would like to touch on towns briefly because I think it's important for you to understand kind of how they work. You might have the question, should I be building towns? Should I be excited about towns? Why wouldn't I want to just convert them all to cities? Towns give you lots of gold. Within each town, you are kind of choosing a focus that works for you, and all of the production is being converted to gold. So it's sending a lot of gold to your empire so you can fund your cities, which is incredible. So finding that balance is really important. Second is it's expensive to convert to a city, right? So it starts cheaper and gets more expensive. The more your town towns, the cheaper it gets as well. So the longer it's been a town, at least I'm maybe drawing a correlation here that's not true. I found that the more my town has been a town, the cheaper it is. The maximum is 1,000, the minimum is 200. And so if I convert this to a city, it'll cost 1,000 gold, but then it'll also take gold per turn away because now this production is going into its own city instead of into gold for the rest of the empire. So yeah, the towns are a very vital part of your economy. You're not going to want to go too far over the kind of 1-to-1 ratio the game recommends for towns to cities. I found towns to be very, very helpful. I've played some games where I've gone way over that and had like 2/3 cities in a couple of towns and found success. It really depends on your Civ or your game, but I wanted to briefly explain how the towns work here so you understood that. The legacy paths feel suitably unique and suitably challenging, but also very simple to understand. The most confused I ever got was in the economic one in the exploration age. You need to improve treasure resources and start ticking up towards a treasure fleet. I didn't know that that wouldn't happen until shipbuilding, so I got confused when I went out. I kind of suffered the penalty for the deep ocean. I started collecting treasure fleet resources, but they weren't actually ticking up per turn. You'll see it says here 6 turns left for a treasure fleet until I hit shipbuilding, but otherwise in both the antiquity and information era, I found the legacy paths to be fun and exciting and easy to understand, but still having to focus on them to achieve them. In terms of the overall feeling of monotonous clicks, you'll know Civ 7 marketing has made a big deal. We're trying to remove useless clicks. We're trying to remove the amount of clicks you have to do per turn. What I will say is I think they've been mostly successful. The most tedium I ever felt was the missionary units with religion, but mostly I feel like they have reduced kind of really, really unnecessary clicks, although I think there's still some on the lower end that might still be a little unnecessary, but definitely a good cleanup has happened there. Most of that will be improved in the modern age. If we're going to notice it, it'll be there where the most amount of clicks would have happened, and we haven't played that yet, so I'm not really sure how to go about that. But at least in the first 2 ages, I found that there are less tedious clicks than in previous Civ games, which has been very welcome. That hasn't really taken away from the game time, though. These ages are long. If you are expecting a shorter Civ game because of that, you are definitely incorrect. Each of these kind of games I've played through the exploration ages take me around 4.5 to 6 hours if I'm playing quickly. And so if I add another 3 or 4 hours on for the modern age, your game's going to be around 10 hours, which is probably similar to what they are in Civ 6. So if you think removing a lot of the tedious clicks and the builders and everything are going to make your Civ game shorter, they are not, I don't think. These games are taking a while. I'm not complaining though, because I've had a lot of fun so far, so the game's taken a while has been great for me. Again, I've never felt bored or uninterested or like the game was really dragging or anything, and so I've had a great time in here, so the long games have not bothered me one bit. 2 more quick things before the end of this video. These navigable rivers are one of the best changes to Civilization maybe ever. The maps are far more engaging, far more dynamic when your kind of inland cities can participate in the naval aspect of the game. So navigable rivers are just one of the best things I've ever played in a Civilization game, and I enjoyed them very much. I also thought it'd be cool to show you mementos as you set up the game, and as you complete challenges when you play, you will unlock different mementos you can equip in your following games. They each have cool little abilities you can assign to your leader in each game, so they're a little bit of customization you can put in the game setup that I really enjoyed. It makes each playthrough feel a little bit different. I hope you enjoyed that Civilization 7 preview and some of my first impressions. If you have any additional questions, throw them in the comments below. Head to our Discord server where there is a specific Civilization 7 questions page. A lot of other content creators, I think, also have their hands on the game and are making a preview video, so your answers might be there as well. And hey, go check out all the other awesome Civ 7 content creators. Thanks again so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed for more Civ 7 content in the future. My name is VanBradley, and I will see you in the next one.